My name is Samantha Williams, and at 32 years old, I never thought my own sister would break my heart. Tracy and I were always different, but family is family, right? At least that was what I believed until my phone lit up at 11:20 p.m. with her message. Do not bother showing up tomorrow. You are no longer welcome at my wedding. The irony. She had no idea that I owned the venue she had been dreaming about for 8 months. If you are watching this, drop a comment telling me where you are from, hit that like button and subscribe to hear how I stood up for myself after months of mistreatment. Tracy and I grew up in a modest suburban home in Connecticut, just 3 years apart in age. As kids, we were inseparable despite our different personalities. I was always the practical one, planning ahead and saving my allowance, while Tracy lived for the moment, spending her money on whatever caught her eye that week. Our parents often joked that I was born 40, already thinking about retirement plans before I could properly tie my shoes. Growing up, I protected Tracy from neighborhood bullies and helped her with homework. When she wanted to try out for cheerleading in high school, I spent weekends helping her practice routines until she made the squad. When she went through her first heartbreak at 16, I was the one who sat with her all night eating ice cream and assuring her there were better guys out there. Despite our differences, we had an unspoken agreement: we would always have each other's backs. After college, while Tracy pursued a career in marketing, I took a different path. I had always been fascinated by real estate, and with my business degree, I started small by purchasing a duplex with my savings and a loan. Living in one unit and renting the other covered my mortgage, and within 5 years, I had acquired 4 more properties. By 30, I had built a modest but successful real estate portfolio that included residential properties, a small commercial strip, and my pride and joy, the historic Bellamy Estate. The Bellamy Estate was a gamble that paid off beautifully. A 19th-century mansion with 10 acres of manicured gardens, it had fallen into disrepair until I purchased it 2 years ago. With careful restoration and a business plan focused on weddings and events, I transformed it into one of the most sought-after venues in our region. Its classic architecture, grand ballroom, and picturesque gardens made it the dream location for many brides, including, as it turned out, my sister Tracy. When Tracy got engaged to Bradley, a charming financial analyst she met at work, I was genuinely thrilled for her. We celebrated with champagne at my apartment, and she gushed about her ideas for the wedding. When she mentioned wanting a venue with old-world charm and sophistication, I kept my ownership of Bellamy Estate quiet, formulating a plan to surprise her. "You know," I said casually over brunch the following weekend, "you should check out the Bellamy Estate. I heard they had a cancellation for next spring." Tracy's eyes widened. "Are you kidding? That place is impossible to book, unless you do it like 2 years in advance, and it is way out of our budget." I shrugged nonchalantly. "Just give them a call. You never know." What Tracy did not know was that I had already spoken to my venue manager, Marion, instructing her to offer Tracy a special promotional rate that was essentially at cost. When Tracy called and was offered both an available date and a 30% discount, she was ecstatic, calling me immediately. "Sam, you will not believe this. We got the Bellamy Estate. They had a cancellation exactly when we wanted, and they offered us an incredible discount because we were referred by someone. Did you know someone there? This is literally my dream venue." I played it cool. "I might have a connection. Consider it part of my maid of honor gift to you." Tracy squealed so loudly, I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "You are the absolute best sister ever. I cannot wait to start planning. This is going to be perfect." And for a while it was. We toured the venue together, with Marion giving us the full treatment while sending me subtle winks when Tracy was not looking. We discussed floral arrangements, lighting, and table layouts, with Tracy becoming more excited with each visit. I loved seeing her so happy, and felt proud that I could help make her dream wedding possible. The first few months of planning were a whirlwind of cake tastings, dress shopping, and Pinterest boards. As maid of honor, I organized a beautiful engagement party at my home, creating personalized touches that reflected both Tracy and Bradley. Tracy hugged me tight that night, whispering, "I do not know what I would do without you, Sam." But as the wedding date grew closer, things began to change. Tracy introduced me to her bridesmaids, most of whom were her friends from college and work. Among them was Amanda, her new colleague and fast friend. From our first meeting, I sensed something off about the way Amanda looked at me, almost sizing me up with a slight smirk. "So you are the famous sister, Amanda," said, swirling her wine. "Tracy talks about you constantly." "All good things, I hope," I laughed. "Oh, mostly," Amanda replied with a smile that did not reach her eyes. As weeks passed, Tracy became increasingly focused on every minute detail of the wedding, transforming from excited bride to someone I barely recognized. She began criticizing my ideas and suggestions, often in front of the other bridesmaids. "No, Sam, we cannot do wildflowers for the centerpieces. They look messy and unplanned." "I told you I wanted structured arrangements," she snapped during one planning session, though I distinctly remembered her praising wildflower arrangements in a magazine just weeks earlier. I chalked it up to wedding stress, continuing to support her while quietly ensuring everything at the venue would be perfect. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a painful journey that would test our relationship to its breaking point. The first real crack in our relationship appeared 3 months into wedding planning. Tracy had been spending more time with her work friends, particularly Amanda, who had somehow become her unofficial wedding planning advisor, despite having never been married herself. One Saturday, Tracy invited all the bridesmaids to her apartment to discuss the bachelorette party. As maid of honor, I had already started planning a weekend at a vineyard that Tracy had once mentioned wanting to visit. I arrived early, bringing pastries and coffee for everyone excited to share my ideas. When I walked in, Tracy and Amanda were huddled over a laptop giggling. They quickly stopped when they saw me. "What is so funny?" I asked, setting down the treats. "Nothing," Tracy said dismissively, "just looking at some bachelorette ideas." I felt a twinge of hurt. Was not that my responsibility as maid of honor? I pushed the feeling aside and began setting up refreshments as the other bridesmaids arrived. Once everyone was settled, I pulled out my folder of bachelorette weekend plans. "So, I've been working on some ideas for the bachelorette weekend," I began, but Amanda immediately cut in. "Actually, we have already decided on Vegas," she announced, looking around the room with a triumphant smile. "5-star hotel, VIP club access, pool parties. Tracy deserves the ultimate girls' weekend before she becomes Mrs. Bradley Harrison." I looked at Tracy in confusion. "But you always said you wanted something more low-key. Remember how we talked about that vineyard tour with the private chef experience?" Tracy shifted uncomfortably. "Well, Vegas just sounds more fun, does not it?" A last hurrah before settling down. The other bridesmaids nodded enthusiastically, already discussing outfits and nightclubs. I felt completely blindsided. Not only had Tracy and Amanda planned this without me, but they had announced it as if my input was irrelevant. Later, when the bridesmaids were engaged in conversation about club attire, I pulled Tracy aside. "Why did not you tell me you wanted to change the bachelorette plans? I already put down deposits on the vineyard." Tracy sighed, as if I was being difficult. "It is my bachelorette, Sam. Vegas is more exciting than some boring wine tasting." "But you hate crowded clubs," I reminded her. "And I thought we agreed the maid of honor plans the bachelorette." "Look, just because you are my sister does not mean you automatically know what is best for my wedding," Tracy snapped. "And honestly, your ideas are a bit safe. Maybe that works for your lifestyle, but this is my one chance to have an amazing wedding experience." I stepped back, stung by her words. "What is that supposed to mean, my lifestyle?" "Nothing," she said quickly. "Just that Amanda understands the vibe I am going for. She is more in tune with what is trendy right now." Before I could respond, Tracy rejoined the group, leaving me standing alone in her kitchen fighting back tears. As I returned to the living room, I overheard Amanda speaking in a hushed voice. "It is not your fault, she does not get it. Some people just do not have that sense of style, you know." especially when they are so focused on practical things like real estate. My cheeks burned as I realized they were talking about me. Tracy did not defend me but nodded slightly. I cleared my throat as I approached, and they immediately changed the subject. Throughout the meeting, I noticed how the other bridesmaids deferred to Amanda on decisions, while my suggestions were politely acknowledged, then ignored. Somehow Amanda had positioned herself as the authority on Tracy's preferences, despite my lifetime of knowing my sister. The following week, Tracy called to tell me she had redistributed some of the maid of honor duties. Amanda is going to handle the bachelorette planning and the bridal shower, she informed me. You can focus on the rehearsal dinner speech and helping me with venue details since you know people there. Are you demoting me as maid of honor? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Do not be dramatic, Sam. I am just delegating tasks to play to everyone's strengths. Amanda is great at planning parties, and you are good with logistics. After hanging up, I sat on my couch feeling hollow. When did I become a mere logistics coordinator in my sister's life? And why was she suddenly dismissive of our bond? I tried addressing it directly when we met for coffee the next day. Tracy, I feel like something has changed between us. If I have done something to upset you, please tell me. Tracy rolled her eyes. Not everything is about you, Sam. I am just under a lot of pressure with the wedding, and frankly, your constant questioning is not helping. I am not questioning anything. I am trying to understand why my sister suddenly treats me like an acquaintance rather than her maid of honor. See, this is exactly what I am talking about. You are making this about your feelings when this is my wedding. Can you for once not make everything about you? I was speechless. In what universe was I making her wedding about me? I had secretly arranged her dream venue at a discount, spent hours helping with planning, and swallowed my hurt feelings repeatedly. Bradley, who had been supportive and friendly to me, seemed to notice the tension. At their engagement dinner, he pulled me aside. Everything okay between you and Tracy? She seems a bit stressed about the wedding. I forced a smile. Just normal wedding jitters, I think. We are good. But we weren't good. With each passing week, Tracy grew more distant, and I found myself walking on eggshells around her, afraid that any suggestion would be interpreted as criticism. I began to worry that our relationship was fundamentally changing, and I did not know how to fix it. Despite the hurt, I remained determined to support Tracy's wedding dreams. After all, she was still my sister, and I wanted her day to be perfect, even if our relationship was strained. I just never imagined how much worse things would get, or how dramatically this wedding would ultimately test the bonds of our sisterhood. 3 months before the wedding, the situation with Tracy deteriorated from uncomfortable to unbearable. What had started as occasional snide comments evolved into outright hostility, often in front of others. The worst part was that I could not understand what had triggered such a dramatic change in my once loving sister. One Saturday, all the bridesmaids gathered for the final dress fittings. I had carefully selected a deep emerald gown that Tracy had originally approved, claiming it complemented my auburn hair. When I emerged from the dressing room, Tracy's face immediately fell. That color makes you look sallow, she said loudly, causing the other bridesmaids to turn and stare. I think you should try the navy option instead. But, you said emerald was perfect, I reminded her gently. Tracy sighed dramatically. That was before I saw it on you. The navy will be more slimming anyway. I felt my cheeks flush as Amanda poorly concealed a smirk. The bridal shop attendant gave me a sympathetic look as she ushered me back to try the navy dress, which was coincidentally a size larger than my usual. Alterations will cost extra, the attendant whispered apologetically. It is fine, I said, fighting back tears. Whatever makes the bride happy. Later that afternoon, as we gathered for lunch, I discovered from an offhand comment that the bridesmaids had attended a spa day together the previous weekend. I had never received an invitation. Wait, when was this? I asked, trying to sound casual. Last Saturday, replied Jenna, another bridesmaid. It was super relaxing. Did not Tracy tell you about it? I must have forgotten to forward you the details, Tracy said. without looking up from her menu. It was very last minute anyway. But the group chat messages that Jenna showed me later revealed the event had been planned for weeks. I had simply been excluded. When I confronted Tracy about it privately, she dismissed my concerns again. It was just a casual thing that Amanda organized. It was not official bridesmaid stuff, so stop making a big deal out of nothing. That night I called our parents, careful to downplay the situation, while seeking some perspective. "Honey, you know how brides get," Mom said soothingly. "Your sister has always been a bit dramatic, and wedding planning brings out the worst in people. Just keep the peace for now. It will all blow over after the wedding." Dad was more direct. "Tracy has always been the Princess Sam. You are stronger than she is. Sometimes that means being the bigger person even when it is not fair." Their advice, though well-intentioned, left me feeling unsupported. Had they always seen me as the emotional caretaker of the family expected to absorb Tracy's moods without complaint? The following month brought more painful revelations. At the bridal shower which Amanda had organized at an exclusive country club, I discovered that my role had been reduced to essentially that of a guest. My name was not on the invitation as a host. I had not been consulted on any decisions, and I was seated at a table with distant cousins rather than with the wedding party. When I arrived early to help set up, Amanda intercepted me at the door. "We have got it all covered," she said with a tight smile. "The catering staff is handling everything. Just relax and enjoy yourself." I stood awkwardly in the corner, holding my carefully selected gift, watching as Amanda directed the staff and greeted guests like she was the sister of the bride. When Tracy arrived, she embraced Amanda, warmly thanking her profusely for organizing the most perfect shower ever. During the gift opening, Tracy barely acknowledged the personalized photo album I had created, containing pictures from our childhood and special moments. Together, along with heartfelt messages from family members, I had spent weeks collecting. "Oh, photos. That is nice," she said quickly, moving on to the next gift, a designer handbag from Amanda that received effusive thanks and a tearful hug. As the shower progressed, I overheard Tracy complaining to a group of her friends. "Sam is being so difficult about the wedding. Everything has to be her way, and she keeps trying to change my vision. Thank God for Amanda stepping up when my own sister could not be bothered to take her maid of honor duties seriously." I nearly dropped my champagne glass. How had I become the villain in this narrative? I had bent over backward to accommodate Tracy's every whim, swallowed my pride repeatedly, and continued to ensure her dream venue was perfect, all while being systematically pushed aside. The financial aspect was becoming concerning as well. Tracy had begun texting me with urgent requests for additional contributions to wedding expenses that had supposedly gone over budget. "Need $2,000 for upgraded linens at the venue. The standard ones look cheap in photos. Can you transfer today?" When I called the venue to inquire about the linen upgrade, Marion confirmed no such charge existed. Tracy had already been given the premium linens as part of her package. Where was this money actually going? Despite the mounting evidence that something was seriously wrong, I maintained the venue discount and continued to check in regularly with the staff to ensure everything would be perfect. Part of me hoped that if the wedding day went smoothly, Tracy and I could repair our relationship afterward. Then came the final blow before the rehearsal dinner. During a family gathering the week before the wedding, I overheard Tracy talking to our cousin Rachel in the kitchen. "Sam has always been jealous of me," Tracy was saying. "She tries to control everything about the wedding because she cannot stand that I am happy. She is 32 and completely alone. No boyfriend, no social life, just her boring properties and investments. It is actually pretty sad." Rachel looked uncomfortable. "I thought you two were close." Tracy laughed dismissively. "We were when we were kids. But she has gotten so weird about money and success. Always has to one-up everyone. Did you know? She keeps hinting that she got me some kind of special deal on the venue, as if I need her charity. Bradley and I are doing just fine financially." I backed away silently, my heart pounding. The sister I thought I knew, the one I had protected and supported all our lives, had been constructing a completely false narrative about me to our family and friends. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined, and for the first time I began to question whether our relationship was worth saving at all. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled at an upscale restaurant near the Bellamy estate the night before the wedding. As the traditional host of this event, I had arranged everything down to the personalized menu cards and carefully selected wine pairings. I had spent hours writing what I hoped would be a touching speech about Tracy and Bradley, focusing on positive memories and my hopes for their future together. I arrived early to check that everything was perfect, my nerves already frayed from weeks of tension. The restaurant manager assured me all was in order, and I took a deep breath, determined to make this night special, despite everything. When Tracy arrived with Bradley and his family, she barely acknowledged me, brushing past to greet Bradley's parents, while I stood awkwardly with the welcome champagne I had arranged. As guests found their seats, I discovered that Tracy had completely rearranged the seating plan I had created. Instead of being seated at the main table with the bride and groom as tradition dictated, I was relegated to a far corner with some of Bradley's distant relatives whom I had never met. Amanda, however, was seated right next to Tracy. "There must be some mistake," I said quietly to Tracy, when I could get a moment alone with her. "No mistake," she replied coolly. "I thought you would be more comfortable there, away from the spotlight. You always say you hate public speaking." That was a complete fabrication. I had never said any such thing. Before I could respond, she was whisked away by Bradley's mother, leaving me standing alone again. During dinner, I tried to maintain a brave face, making conversation with Bradley's elderly aunt and uncle, who seemed confused about who I was. When it came time for speeches, I was not called upon until after Amanda had given an emotional toast about being practically sisters with Tracy and how she had never seen her friend so happy. When I finally approached the microphone, my hands trembling slightly, I began the speech I had rehearsed for weeks. For those who do not know me, I am Samantha, Tracy's sister and maid of honor. Tracy and I grew up sharing not just a bedroom, but our dreams, fears, and deepest secrets. I had barely gotten through my introduction when Tracy loudly cleared her throat. "Maybe keep it short, Sam. We still have Bradley's college friends who want to speak." The room fell awkwardly silent. I felt every eye on me as my carefully prepared words died in my throat. Somehow I managed to stammer through an abbreviated version of my toast, raising my glass with a shaking hand, before quickly returning to my seat, my face burning with humiliation. As I sat down, I overheard Amanda whisper to Tracy, "Told you she would make it about herself." Tracy nodded in agreement, not bothering to lower her voice as she replied, "At least it is over now. Let us hope she does not try to give another speech at the reception." After dinner, as guests mingled over dessert, Bradley's mother approached me with a confused expression. "Samantha, dear, I wanted to ask about tomorrow. Tracy mentioned there was some tension between you two. She said you were unhappy about not being maid of honor." I blinked in shock. "What, I am the maid of honor?" She looked embarrassed. "Oh, I must have misunderstood. Tracy introduced Amanda as her maid of honor earlier and mentioned something about you stepping down due to work commitments." Before I could correct this outrageous lie, Tracy appeared, linking her arm through her future mother-in-law's. "I see you are getting to know Sam better," she said, with a tight smile. "Come on. The photographer wants some family pictures. Just the Harrison family for now," she added, pointedly in my direction. I watched as they gathered for photos, feeling completely excluded from the celebration I had worked so hard to perfect. Bradley caught my eye across the room and gave me a sympathetic look, but quickly turned away when Tracy noticed. When the evening finally ended, I was emotionally exhausted. As guests departed, I approached Tracy one last time, determined to clear the air before the wedding day. "Can we talk for a minute?" privately I asked. Tracy rolled her eyes, but followed me to a quiet corner of the restaurant's lobby. "What now, Sam? It is almost midnight, and I need my beauty sleep." "What is going on, Tracy? Why are you treating me like this? Why did you tell Bradley's mother? I stepped down as maid of honor. Oh my God. Are you seriously going to create drama the night before my wedding? This is exactly why I have been keeping my distance. You always have to make everything about you. That is not true, and you know it. I have done nothing but support you and this wedding. I even arranged for you to get the Bellamy estate at a discount. Tracy's eyes narrowed. There you go again, throwing your so-called generosity in my face. I never asked for your help with the venue. In fact, Amanda's cousin works there, and said they give that same discount to lots of people. It was nothing special. I was speechless. Not only was this completely false, but it showed how determined Tracy was to rewrite reality to fit her new narrative. Why are you doing this? I finally asked, my voice breaking. What happened to us? Nothing happened to us, Tracy snapped. You just cannot stand that I have other people in my life now. People who are actually fun and supportive, not constantly judging me, or trying to control everything. When have I ever judged you? I have been nothing but supportive. Please, she scoffed. You have always thought you were better than me with your successful business and your perfect little life. Well, guess what? I have an amazing fiancé friends who actually like me for me, and tomorrow I am having my dream wedding at the most exclusive venue in the state. So, maybe stop acting like I need your charity. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving me standing alone with tears streaming down my face. I somehow made it to my car before completely breaking down, sobbing uncontrollably over the steering wheel. As I finally drove home in a daze, my phone buzzed. A text from Tracy, time-stamped 11:20 p.m. Do not bother showing up tomorrow. You are no longer welcome at my wedding. I have already told security to not let you in. I cannot risk you making a scene and ruining my perfect day. Amanda will handle all the maid of honor duties. I pulled over, unable to see the road through my tears. My own sister had just uninvited me from her wedding. The wedding I had helped make possible at the venue I secretly owned. As I sat there in shock, another text came through. This one was not meant for me. Tracy had accidentally sent me a message intended for Amanda. Just uninvited Sam. What a relief, tomorrow will be perfect without her there trying to steal attention. Did you see her face at dinner when I cut off her speech? Priceless, cannot wait to see the photos without her awkwardly standing in the background. You are the best MOH ever. See you tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp. Something inside me broke in that moment. The final thread of hope, that this was all a misunderstanding, that my sister still loved me beneath all the drama, snapped completely. The pain was so acute, it felt physical, like someone had reached into my chest and crushed my heart. But alongside the pain, something else emerged: clarity. For months I had made excuses for Tracy's behavior, blamed wedding stress, tried to be understanding. But the evidence was undeniable. My sister had not just pushed me aside, she had actively worked to humiliate and exclude me, spreading lies and mockery among our friends and family. As I drove home in the darkness, a resolve began to form. I had spent my life supporting Tracy, protecting her, putting her needs first. But who was protecting me? If I did not stand up for myself now, who would? By the time I reached my apartment, my decision was made. Tracy had uninvited me from her wedding at my venue. Perhaps it was time she learned exactly what that meant. I barely slept that night, replaying Tracy's words and actions over and over in my mind. By sunrise, my eyes were swollen from crying, but my resolve had only strengthened. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, considering my options carefully. The fact was, I legally owned the Bellamy estate. I had every right to cancel any event scheduled there. But did I have the moral right to disrupt my sister's wedding, regardless of how cruelly she had treated me? I spent an hour weighing the ethical implications. This was not about revenge. It was about consequences and self-respect. Tracy had systematically dismantled our relationship, lied about me to family and friends, and ultimately uninvited me from her wedding, all while I continued to provide her with a heavily discounted dream venue that I owned. At 7:30 a.m., I made my decision. I called Marion, my venue manager. Marion, I know this is unorthodox, but I need to cancel today's Harrison wedding. There was a pause on the line. Sam, are you sure about this? Everything is already set up. The vendors will be arriving within the hour. I understand, and I will cover all vendor cancellation fees personally. Please call them immediately and let them know. Then I need you to contact the bride and explain that due to unforeseen circumstances the venue is unavailable today. May I ask what happened? Marion asked cautiously. I hesitated, not wanting to drag her into family drama. The bride uninvited me from the wedding last night. She does not know I own the venue, and frankly, given how she has been treating me, she does not deserve to use it. Marion had worked with me long enough to know I was not capricious or vindictive. I understand. What about their deposit? Refund it in full, plus an additional $5,000 for the inconvenience. And Marion, when you speak to Tracy, please do not mention my ownership. Simply say that the owner made this decision, and it is final. After hanging up, I called my parents. It was early, but I knew they would be up preparing for the wedding. Mom answered, sounding cheerful. Sam, are you already at the venue? Dad and I are just about to leave for Tracy's hotel to help her get ready. Mom, I need to tell you something, and it is going to be shocking. I took a deep breath. Tracy uninvited me from the wedding last night. What? That cannot be right. There must be some misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding. She sent me a text explicitly telling me not to come, that security would not let me in, and that Amanda is taking over all maid of honor duties. She followed it with another text meant for Amanda, mocking me. Mom was silent for a moment. Oh, Sam, I do not know what to say. Your sister has been difficult during this planning process, but this is beyond acceptable. Let me talk to her. There is more, I continued. What no one knows, not even you and Dad, is that I own the Bellamy estate. You what? I bought it 2 years ago as an investment property. I arranged for Tracy to get a special discount as my gift to her. But after what happened last night, I have canceled the venue for today. I heard my mother gasp. Samantha Jean Williams. You cannot do that. There are 200 people coming. What about Bradley's family? What about the expense? I am refunding their money in full plus compensation. And honestly, Mom, why are you more concerned about the inconvenience to guests than the fact that your daughter has been systematically cruel to me for months, spreading lies about me to our family, and ultimately uninviting me from her wedding? Dad's voice came on the line. Sam, this is not like you. I understand you are hurt, but canceling the venue is extreme. Is it? Tell me, Dad. If one of your business partners treated you the way Tracy has treated me, would you continue doing business with them? Would you give them special discounts and bend over backward to accommodate them while they insulted you behind your back? He was quiet for a moment. No, I would not. Then why should I accept this treatment just because she is family? In fact, should not family treat you better than strangers, not worse? I could hear my parents conferring quietly. Finally, Mom spoke again. What do you want us to do, Sam? Just be aware of what is happening. Tracy will be getting a call from the venue manager soon. She will likely call you hysterical. I wanted you to know my side first. After hanging up, I packed a small bag. I did not want to be home when the inevitable barrage of angry calls and texts began. I had a friend with a lakeside cabin about 2 hours away who had always told me I could use it whenever I needed a getaway. Today seemed like the perfect day to take her up on that offer. As I drove out of the city, my phone began buzzing incessantly. I connected it to my car's Bluetooth to hear a voicemail from Marion. Sam, I spoke with Miss Harrison as instructed. She did not take the news well. She demanded to speak to the owner and threatened legal action. I maintained that the decision was final and explained about the full refund plus compensation. She refused to accept it and said she is coming to the venue anyway. I have instructed security not to allow anyone from the wedding party onto the property. Please let me know if you need anything else." Next came a series of increasingly frantic texts from Tracy. "What the hell is going on with the venue? They cannot just cancel like this. It is illegal. Are you behind this somehow? Answer your phone, Sam. This is a nightmare." I turned off notifications and continued driving, feeling strangely calm, despite the chaos unfolding behind me. For the first time in months, perhaps years, I was putting myself first. The weight of always being the responsible one, the peacekeeper, the person who absorbed others' bad behavior to keep the family harmony, had finally become too heavy to bear. At the cabin, I sat on the dock overlooking the still water, reflecting on the events that had led to this moment. I did not feel the vindictive satisfaction that might be expected. Instead, I felt a profound sadness for the relationship that had been lost, but also a sense of liberation. I had finally stood up for myself in a meaningful way, drawing a boundary that said, "This is how I deserve to be treated, and there are consequences when that standard is not met." As the sun set over the lake, I allowed myself to process the complex emotions of the day. Part of me wondered if I had gone too far, if canceling the venue was an overreaction. But then I remembered Tracy's words at the rehearsal dinner, the systematic exclusion, the lies she had spread about me, and finally the cruel text uninviting me from her wedding. No, I had not overreacted. I had simply finally reacted. Tomorrow would bring a storm of family drama and difficult conversations. But tonight, for the first time in months, I would sleep peacefully, knowing I had stood up for my own worth. Whatever happened next, that alone was a victory worth celebrating. 1 week after what was supposed to be Tracy's wedding day, I returned to face the aftermath of my decision. During my time at the lake cabin, I had limited my phone use, responding only to work emergencies and a few messages from close friends unconnected to the wedding drama. I needed that space to process my emotions and prepare for the inevitable confrontations. When I finally checked my messages, there were over 50 missed calls and nearly 100 texts. My voicemail was full. The emails ranged from concerned to furious. I sorted through them methodically, starting with my parents. Mom had left several voicemails, her tone evolving from angry to concerned, to resigned as the days passed. The most recent simply said, "Call us when you are ready, Sam. We need to talk as a family." Tracy's messages were predictably volatile, ranging from rage, "You ruined my life," to bargaining, "If this was about the venue discount, I will pay you back every penny," to vicious attacks. "Everyone knows what you did. No one will ever trust you again. Hope you are happy all alone in your big empty house." Bradley had texted once, "I do not know exactly what happened between you two, but we need to talk. This has gone too far on both sides." His message surprised me. I had expected him to fully side with Tracy, but his words suggested he might be more objective than I had anticipated. My first call was to my parents. Dad answered immediately. "Sam, are you okay?" "I am fine, Dad. Just needed some time away to think. How are you and Mom holding up?" He sighed heavily. "It has been a rough week. Tracy stayed with us for a few days. She was, well, devastated, would be an understatement. And furious with me, I imagine." "At first, yes. But something interesting happened, Sam. After the initial shock wore off, people started asking questions. Bradley's parents wanted to know why you were not at the rehearsal dinner. Your cousin Rachel mentioned overhearing Tracy saying unkind things about you. Then Amanda made some comment about you being jealous of Tracy's happiness that did not sit right with Bradley." I listened, silently surprised by this turn of events. "The truth is," Dad continued, "once people started comparing notes, a different picture emerged than the one Tracy had been painting. Not everyone is against you, Sam. Many family members were quite confused about your absence, saying you had always been the reliable one." Mom got on the line. That does not excuse what you did, Samantha. Canceling the venue was extreme. I know it seems that way, Mom. But you did not see the text Tracy sent me or the one she accidentally forwarded that was meant for Amanda. You did not experience months of being systematically pushed aside and lied about. We know more now than we did then, Mom admitted. Bradley showed us the texts. He was troubled by them. He said they did not sound like the Tracy he knew. That was interesting. I had not expected Bradley to take any action that might appear disloyal to Tracy. Is Tracy still planning to marry him? I asked. They have postponed, not canceled, Dad explained. Bradley suggested they take some time to regroup after all the drama. He seems like a level-headed young man. After speaking with my parents, I felt marginally better about the situation. At least they were beginning to understand my perspective. But I knew the hardest conversation was yet to come. Tracy showed up at my door, unannounced, the next day. When I opened it, I barely recognized my sister. Her eyes were puffy from crying, her hair pulled back messily, wearing sweatpants and a hoodie, instead of her usual carefully coordinated outfit. You own the Bellamy estate, she said flatly. It was not a question. I nodded, stepping aside to let her in. Yes. How long? 2 years. She paced my living room, arms crossed tightly. So the special discount, the available date, all of it was you pulling strings. It was meant to be my gift to you, something special that I could provide as your sister. Tracy laughed bitterly. And then you took it all away. Do you have any idea what you did? 200 people had to be called. Bradley's family had flown in from 4 different states. The cake, the flowers, the photographer, everything wasted. I refunded everything, plus compensation. It was not about the money, she exploded. It was my wedding day, Sam. The most important day of my life. And you uninvited me from it, I replied quietly. Your own sister. After months of pushing me aside, letting Amanda take over, spreading lies about me to our family, after humiliating me at the rehearsal dinner. What did you expect me to do? Not cancel my entire wedding. Normal people just get upset and move on. They do not destroy their sister's dreams out of spite. It was not spite, Tracy. It was self-respect. You cannot treat people horribly and expect no consequences just because you are family, especially when you are benefiting from their generosity without even knowing it. Tracy collapsed onto my couch, putting her head in her hands. Everyone is talking about it. Bradley's mother keeps asking what kind of family I come from, where sisters would do this to each other. Some of my friends think it is hilarious, like some reality television drama. Others are not speaking to me. And Bradley. She trailed off. What about Bradley? I prompted. She looked up, her expression a mix of anger and hurt. He said he needed to rethink things. That if I could cut off my own sister so easily, what would happen if we had a serious disagreement in our marriage? He said he did not recognize the person in those texts. For a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy. Tracy had indeed lost a lot. But then I remembered how willingly she had tried to destroy my reputation and exclude me from her life. I am sorry it came to this, I said honestly. But I am not sorry I stood up for myself. You left me no choice, Tracy. There is always a choice. You could have just not come to the wedding as I asked, and we could have worked things out later. Like we worked things out all the times. I tried to talk to you about how you were treating me. Like when you dismissed my concerns, called me selfish, let Amanda take over my role and spread lies about me. That kind of working things out. She had no answer for that. Our conversation continued in circles for nearly 2 hours. Tracy alternated between blaming me entirely and reluctantly acknowledging that perhaps she had been influenced by Amanda and the wedding stress. She revealed that Amanda had consistently painted me as jealous and controlling, feeding Tracy's insecurities about our relationship. She kept saying how weird it was that you were so involved in my wedding planning that most sisters would just show up on the day Tracy admitted. She suggested you were trying to live vicariously through me because you are single. The absurdity of this almost made me laugh. Tracy, I own a successful business and multiple properties. I arranged for you to have your dream venue at cost. How does any of that suggest I am jealous of you? She shrugged uncomfortably. It made sense at the time. Amanda can be very convincing. And where is Amanda now? I asked. Is she helping you deal with the aftermath? Tracy's expression hardened. She stopped returning my calls after the wedding was canceled, said it was too much drama, and she needed to distance herself. Some friend, I thought, but did not say. As Tracy was leaving, she paused at the door. Do you think we will ever be okay again? As sisters? I considered this carefully. I do not know Tracy. Trust is easily broken but hard to rebuild. I am willing to try, but things will need to change. I will not be your emotional punching bag anymore. She nodded slowly. For what it is worth, I am sorry about the text. I was angry and Amanda was egging me on. I should not have uninvited you. It was not a full apology for everything, but it was a start. As I closed the door behind her, I felt emotionally drained, but also relieved. The worst of the confrontation was over, and while our relationship remained deeply damaged, at least the truth was now in the open. Over the following weeks, the family divided into factions. Some relatives thought I had overreacted dramatically, while others, once they learned the full story, understood my position. My parents remained cautiously neutral, recognizing that both their daughters had made mistakes. Bradley reached out to meet for coffee, wanting to hear my side directly. He was more thoughtful than I had given him credit for, asking insightful questions about the timeline of events and listening carefully to my answers. I always thought it was strange how Tracy suddenly started excluding you, he admitted. The Tracy I fell in love with spoke so highly of her big sister. Then Amanda came into the picture and everything changed. Amanda alone is not to blame, I said fairly. Tracy made her own choices. He nodded. That is what troubles me the most. I need to be sure the woman I marry is someone who would not turn on family so easily. That is why I asked for some time. I respected his honesty and the difficult position he was in. As we parted, he thanked me for being willing to talk openly with him, something he said Tracy still struggled to do about the whole situation. Setting boundaries with my family proved challenging but necessary. For the first time, I declined a family dinner when I learned Tracy would be there, explaining to my parents that I needed more time before engaging in family gatherings together. Instead of feeling guilty, I felt empowered. My time and emotional well-being mattered, and I was finally acting accordingly. 6 months after what my family now awkwardly referred to as the wedding incident, I found myself in a much different place, both emotionally and relationally. The journey had not been easy, but it had been transformative in ways I never could have anticipated. Shortly after the confrontation with Tracy, I began seeing a therapist who specialized in family dynamics. Dr. Larson helped me understand patterns that had existed in our family for decades. My role as the responsible older sister, Tracy's position as the family darling, who was rarely held accountable, and our parents' tendency to expect me to be the peacekeeper. Your decision to cancel the venue was not just about that moment, Dr. Larson observed during one session. It was about 32 years of swallowing your feelings to keep the peace. Sometimes the most seemingly dramatic actions come after years of quiet accommodation. Through our weekly sessions, I gained insight into my own people-pleasing tendencies and difficulty setting boundaries. I learned that my worth was not determined by how much I sacrificed for others, particularly those who did not appreciate or reciprocate my efforts. Professionally, my business continued to thrive. After some initial concern about potential reputation damage if the story got out, I discovered that most people in my professional circle either never heard about the incident or were supported privately. The Bellamy estate bookings actually increased after I approved a subtle renovation that made the grand ballroom even more impressive. Family relationships evolved in unexpected ways. My cousin Rachel, who had overheard Tracy's unkind comments before the wedding, became a surprising source of support. We had never been particularly close growing up, but she reached out regularly, and we discovered we had more in common than we realized. "I always thought you were so together," she confessed over lunch one day. "Like you never needed anyone. It never occurred to me that you might be carrying so much on your shoulders." With my parents, progress came slowly but steadily. After several honest conversations, they began to recognize how their different expectations of their daughters had contributed to our dynamic. Mom admitted that she had always leaned more heavily on me because Tracy needs more help without considering the burden that placed on me. "We never meant to make you feel like your feelings mattered less," Dad said during a particularly emotional dinner. "You were always so capable sometimes. We forgot you needed support too." Tracy and I maintained a careful distance for several months, communicating primarily through brief texts and occasional family gatherings where we were politely civil. It was during a random Tuesday afternoon that she called me unexpectedly. "Bradley and I are back together," she said, without preamble. "We have been in couples counseling, and I have been seeing someone individually too." "That is good to hear," I replied cautiously. "My therapist suggested I might have some underlying issues with competition and jealousy toward you," she continued, her voice tight, "and some tendency to be influenced by people like Amanda, who validate my insecurities." Coming from Tracy, this was remarkably insightful. "That sounds like productive therapy." "Yeah, well, it is not fun," she admitted with a small laugh, "but necessary, I guess. Anyway, we are planning a very small ceremony. Just immediate family and a few close friends. At a restaurant, not a special venue or anything, and I wondered if you would consider coming." I felt a complex mix of emotions: apprehension, a lingering hurt, but also a flicker of hope. "I would need to think about it," I answered honestly. "That is fair," she said, sounding disappointed but understanding. "The invitation is open if you decide you want to come. No pressure." That brief conversation marked a turning point. While we would never return to the relationship we had before, a new kind of connection began to form, one based on more honest communication and realistic expectations. One afternoon, about 7 months after the wedding cancellation, I received an unexpected visitor. Bradley stood at my door holding a small gift bag. "Sorry to drop by unannounced," he said. "I was in the neighborhood for a meeting and wanted to give you this." Inside the bag was a framed photo of Tracy and me as children, our arms around each other, gap-toothed grins facing the camera. "Tracy does not know I am here," he explained, "but I wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" I was confused. "For what?" "For showing me who Tracy could be when pushed to extremes," he said carefully. "It gave us the opportunity to address some issues before marriage, rather than after. The counseling has been good for both of us individually and as a couple." We talked for nearly an hour. Bradley shared that he had recognized some concerning patterns in Tracy's behavior during wedding planning, but had dismissed them as bridal stress. The canceled wedding had forced them to confront issues they might otherwise have ignored. "Tracy is learning to recognize when she is being influenced by negative people like Amanda was," he explained. "And I am learning to speak up earlier when I see concerning behavior, instead of just hoping it will pass." As he was leaving, he hesitated. "She misses you, you know. More than she can admit right now. The real Tracy, beneath all the defense mechanisms and insecurities, has always looked up to you." His visit left me thoughtful. While I had been focused on healing myself, I had not fully considered that Tracy might be doing her own difficult work as well. The following weekend, I texted Tracy coffee next week. Her response came immediately. "Name the time and place." Our coffee meeting was awkward at first, both of us carefully avoiding any topics that might lead to tension. But as we relaxed, Tracy said something that surprised me. "I am sorry, Sam. Not just for the wedding text, but for everything leading up to it. For letting Amanda influence me against you. For taking advantage of your generosity while resenting you for it. For making you feel excluded from something that should have brought us closer." It was the comprehensive apology I had needed, but never expected to receive. I felt tears prick my eyes. "Thank you for saying that," I replied. "I am sorry too for how everything played out. Canceling the venue was extreme, even if I felt justified." She nodded, wiping away her own tears. "Maybe we both learned something about ourselves. I learned I can be easily influenced by people who feed my insecurities. You learned you can only take so much before you break." We were not magically healed, but it was an honest beginning. In the year since the wedding that never happened, I have built a life that feels more authentic and balanced. I have cultivated friendships with people who appreciate boundaries and reciprocity. I have learned to speak up earlier when something bothers me, rather than letting resentment build. Most importantly, I have recognized that standing up for myself is not selfish, but necessary. Tracy and Bradley did eventually marry in a small, intimate ceremony. I attended not as a bridesmaid, but as a supportive sister finding her way back to family. It was not perfect, but it was real and honest, in a way the original wedding plans never were. The greatest lesson I learned through this painful journey was that true strength is not found in endless accommodation of others at your own expense. Real strength lies in knowing your worth, and requiring others to honor it. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do both for yourself and others is to establish consequences when boundaries are crossed. Family relationships are complex, often laden with patterns established in childhood that no longer serve us as adults. Breaking those patterns is painful, but ultimately liberating. While my relationship with Tracy will never be what it once was, perhaps it can become something more authentic and sustainable. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with someone you love? What did you learn from the experience? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences and lessons learned the hard way. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that standing up for yourself is not just your right, it is essential to your well-being and the health of your relationships.